Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Shri Radhe. Jaya Radha Govinda Radha Govinda Shri Radhe. Jaya Nitai Satinandana Gaura Hari. Nitai Satinandana Gaura Hari. Jaya Nitai Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jaya Jaya Sachinandana Gaura Hari Jaya Prabhupada 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 Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Jai Vishnupat Paramahansa Parivajakacarya Shrotra Shrotra Shishima His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Brahmacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Mathura Dham ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai ki Jai Yamuna Mai ki Jai Tulsi Devi ki Jai Bhakti Devi ki Jai Samved Bhaktivinoda ki Jai All glories to the Assembled Devotees, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembled Devotees, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glories to the Assembled Devotees, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtavadale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharane. Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarane. Sarvam Shri Krishnarpanastu. Krishna Madhyavastu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 So we'll be reading from Bhagavad-Gita chapter 6, text 16 onwards. Just a kind of revision in terms of 15. Yunjanevam Sadatmanam Yogi Niyata Manasa Shantim Nirvana Paramam Mat Samstham Adhigachati. So this was the last verse where Krishna was saying about Yogi Niyata Manasa Shanti Nirvana Paramam. So when the mind is Niyata, it's in a regulated state, then Shanti Nirvana Paramam Mat Sthanam Adhigachati, Mat Samstham Adhigachati. Then when the mind is in a fixed state, then one goes into that Shanti Nirvanam Paramam. So that peaceful existence, which is our natural nature, we go into that state. Now in this verse, from 16 onwards, Krishna talks about how in terms of not being extreme of Yuktahara Viharasya. He talks about that in the 17, but in the 16 he talks about if someone is doing extreme of things. So maybe we can read this. Nati ashnatastu yogosti. Nati ashnatastu yogosti. Nachaikantam anashnataha. Nachaikantam anashnataha. Nachat swapna shilasya. Nachatri swapna shilasya. Jagrato naiva charjuna. Jagrato naiva charjuna. So the word by word is na, never, ati, too much, ashnataha, of one who eats, two, but, yoga, linking with the Supreme, asti, there is, na, nor, cha, also, ekantam, overly, anashnataha, abstaining from eating, na, nor, cha, also, ati, too much, swapna shilasya, of one who sleeps, jagrataha, or one who keeps night watch too much, na,
na,
not,
not,
eva,
eva,
ever,
ever,
cha,
cha,
and
Arjuna,
O Arjuna.
O Arjuna.
The translation is there is no possibility
There is no possibility
of once becoming a yogi,
of once becoming a yogi,
O Arjuna,
O Arjuna,
if one eats too much,
if one eats too much,
or eats too little,
or eats too little,
sleeps too much,
sleeps too much,
or does not sleep enough.
or does not sleep enough.
So basically here Krishna is, because this is a chapter of Dhyana Yoga, so what is it that helps us to do this dhyana, this meditation? So Krishna is, in this particular 16th verse, he is talking, na ati ashnatas tu yogosti. So ashnatas is one who eats. So ati means too much. So Krishna is saying here that if someone is eating too much, or na chaikantam anashnata, or someone is eating too little. And then he says, na chati swapnashilasya jagrato chaiva naiva charja. Someone is sleeping too much, or someone is keeping awake too much, not sleeping much. So he's talking about the two extremes, right? So this is where what happens is, we have discussed in the previous verses where Krishna says, Bhoga Ishwarya Prasaktanam, Taya Paharita Chetasam, Vyavasayatmika Buddhir Samadhona Vidhyate. So what Krishna mentions there is, if someone is attached to Bhoga and Aishwarya, Bhoga is lots of, when we are in a state of extreme indulgence, engaging the sense in sense gratificatory activity for too much. So if you're doing that, medium level is fine, like medium level, and then the medium level, the question would be, what is a medium level, right? So medium level is when one, so basically what would happen is, if someone is doing too much of renunciation, and if they're doing that renunciation with an attitude of just to renounce, without anything else in the mind, then what is going to happen is, it's not, so there is a prapanchitaya buddhya hari sambandhi vastu na mumukshubi parityago vairagyam phalgu kathiyate. There is a particular verse where Srila Rupa Goswami mentions what is there is a thing called yukta vairagya, and there is a phalgu vairagya. So yukta vairagya means things are not renounced just for the sake of renunciation. Things are used in the service of the Lord. So basically, when the things are being used for the service of the Lord, it becomes spiritualized. But if someone is just renouncing for the sake of renunciation, then that is not going to yield the results that really one wants. So what is the result that one wants? The result is that, sukha dukhe same kritva, labha labha jaya jayo, tato yudhaya yujasva naivam papam avapsisi. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita, the final goal of engaging in Dhyana Yoga is that one becomes free from this external ups and downs. Because what happens in the material world is, it is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. And Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita, mamupetya punarjanmam dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramamgata. And Krishna mentions that the material world, it is an abode of misery, it is called. Why is it an abode of misery? Because no one wants to die, but we are forced to die. No one wants to have old age, but we are forced to have old age. No one wants to have disease, but we are forced to have disease. And why? This is mrityu, jara and vyadhi. Death, jara is old age and vyadhi is disease. Why this is coming? Because there is janma. Because there is birth, there is mrityu, jara and vyadhi. Janma, mrityu, jara, vyadhi, dukkha, doshanu, darshan. So this is in the human form of life, one can actually understand that these are actually real problems of existence. In any other form of life, this is not possible. Even in the form of demigods, in the heavenly planets, right? So, if you look at the Vedic philosophy, heaven is not the final goal. Heaven is a place where one gets enormous amount of life with no difficulties. Total enjoyment, huge life, but then Kshire punye punya martyarokam vishanti. What happens is, so basically when we are in this earthly planetary system, the middle planetary system, we have this capacity to either accrue good karma or accrue bad karma. So if we are doing good karmas, it is giving us good results, and then basing on that, we can go to the heavenly planets and enjoy for millions of years. If we compare with the earthly system, it will be millions of years. Similarly, if someone is doing bad karma, so they will get bad results and they will need to suffer in the hellish planetary system for a very long time. But what is happening in this human planetary system is you've got a very nice mix of good and bad. It's not too good that you are totally lost in that happiness and you don't remember the Lord at all. It's not too bad that you don't. If one is in an extremely bad situation, that is also a very difficult situation. Of course, if someone is a devotee, it does not matter. Narayana parasarve na kutaschana bibhyati swarga apavarga narkeshu apitulyata darshina. There is a very beautiful verse in Srimad Bhagavatam. It says that when someone is totally surrendered to Narayana parasarve, one is not afraid of anything. Na kutaschana bibhyati. No fear. Then one might be in Swarga, one might be in the heavenly planet, Apavarga. Apavarga is the planet where one is, so there is a Pavarga and Apavarga. Pavarga means Papha Babhama, in our Varnamala, in our Hindi or Sanskrit Varnamala, we have this Papha Babhama. What it talks about is, Papha Babhama is the, so Pa is Parishram, Pa is Fena it is called. That means, when you're doing too much of hard work, you're sweating and all those things are happening. Then Vyarthata, Vyarthata is Ba, and then Bhaya is Bha, and then Mrityu is Ma. So this is called Pavarga. There's this situation in this material world, it's called Pavarga. So it does not matter, Swarga, Apavargeshu, Narkeshu, Apitulyartha Darshina. So it does not matter where one is situated, because Savai Manaha Krishna Padaravindayo. When the mind is fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord, there is one, it does not matter, the externalities does not matter. Because one knows fully that the Lord is present everywhere. Bhayam, it is mentioned in the scriptures, in Srimad Bhagavatam it is mentioned that fear happens because one is thinking that there is something other than the Lord. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshatah syat. Ishad apetasya viparyayo asmriti. So when one is forgetting the Lord, there is fear. Otherwise there is no fear. Because Krishna actually mentions, he says that mrityu sarva harascha. Krishna says that I am death as well. Udbhavat sa bhavishyatam kirtir vak shricha narinam smritir medha dhritir kshama. He talks about the qualities of the prakriti, the narina. So he says smriti medha dhriti kshama. Smriti, remembrance, medha is intelligence, dhriti is determination, and kshama is forgiveness. So he says that all these qualities I am, and I am death as well. So if someone remembers the Lord as even death, then one will not even fear death, because one is thinking that when I am dying, that is the Lord. So this is this. So when in this particular verse, when we are discussing about this particular verse, what we have to understand is that when one is extremely renouncing, like this is explained in the Buddha's life story as well. So when Buddha was born as Siddhartha, the prince, and when there was an astrologer who came and he looked at his chart, birth chart, and he said to his father that your son will either become a great king or he'll become a great renunciant. Your son. So he said to the father, to the king. So the king said that he did not want his son to become a renunciant. He wanted to become a great king, basically. So he shielded Siddhartha from looking at all the difficulties in life. But there came a time when somehow Siddhartha sneaked out and he saw all these problems. Right? He saw that there was one person who was suffering with disease. He saw that there was an old man. He saw that there is someone who is dying and their dead body is being taken. So he became really, he said that I need to find solution for these problems. This is what we have to do in human form of life. It can be done only in human form of life, no other form. Not even in the heavenly planetary systems. As demigods, this solution can be made. Because in heavenly planetary system, what is happening is all these things are not there. There is no old age. Of course, there is an end of the unlimited span of life. Somewhere there is an end. Unlimited in the sense, from our perspective, it looks like unlimited, but it's actually not unlimited. This is it. A Brahma Bhuvana Loka Punaravartino Arjuna. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita, from Brahma Loka onwards, so there are 14 planetary systems. Bhuva Swaha it is called. There is 7 planetary systems which are in the hellish condition, and the 7 in the, starting with the earthly planetary system, there are 7. And earthly is the middle planetary system. So Brahma Loka onwards, down to all the lokas, Krishna says, Punaravartino Arjuna. That is constant cycle of birth and death. Mamupeke Punarjanmam. So when one attains Krishna's abode, and attaining Krishna's abode is what? Understanding our original nature as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna. That is what is attaining Krishna's abode is. Coming back to Buddha's story, so he sees that, then he has a son and wife as well, and then suddenly one night he just leaves. He renounces and leaves, and he goes. Initially, when he is renouncing, he renounces to one extreme. He just doesn't eat anything, doesn't drink anything. He becomes very pale, and then he starts realizing that if I don't have proper body, how am I going to attain enlightenment? So then he comes to the middle path. He knows that he has to maintain his body. If I don't maintain my body, I am not able to get enlightenment. So basically, if we look at him from the perspective of Siddhartha as a prince, he was probably in a very luxurious state, and he was getting lots and lots of things. He was probably on the other side. Maybe he was maybe not, because he's born as a person who is going to show that how enlightenment can be attained. So initially, if you look at it from the princely perspective, he was in a very luxurious state, and then he went into a very ascetic state, a very renounced state, and then he found the middle path. And then in the middle path, he attained nirvana. Labhante Brahma Nirvana, Rishya Kshina Kalmasha, Chinna Dvandva Yatatmana Sarva Bhuta Hiterata. It is mentioned, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita, he says, how one gets nirvana, how one gets to the state of understanding one's eternal nature. That is, Rishya Kshina Kalmasha. So the first thing that is qualification for nirvana is, one is free from sinful activities, kalmasha. Tava kathamritam kalmashapaha, kavibhiriditam shravana mangalam. So this is the Gopi Gita, and in the Gopi Gita, the gopis are singing that when we hear Krishna, your story, your Krishna's pastimes, kalmashapaha, automatically all the sinful things are washed away. That is the wonderful nature of engaging in Krishna consciousness. So this is Rishya Kshina Kalmasha Chinna Dvandva Yatatmana Sarva Bhuta Hiterata. So first, what happens is, once sinful things are taken away, there is no sinful activity. Kshina Kalmasha Chinna Dvandva. The second thing that is happening is, one is getting free from the dualities of the material existence. So either extreme happiness or extreme sadness, or middle happiness, middle sadness, one remains fixed. That everything is a prasade. Prasade sarva dukkhanam hani rasyopajayate. Everything is like a costless mercy of the Lord. One is in that state of existence. There is There is one particular verse where it is said that if that someone who is totally in a state of surrender unto the Lord, they consider everything as a costless mercy of the Lord. So it does not matter. Of course, when something is very nice, one might say that this is Lord's mercy. But even in the difficult situations, they think that I probably should have suffered even more. But because the Lord's costless mercy is upon me, my suffering has been reduced to quite a lot extent. So that is the nature. So that is one way. So this is what one is free from the dualities of material nature. Chinna Dvandva Yatatmana. One is very determined in terms of remembering the Lord. And Sarva Bhuta Hiterata. The fourth thing is one is engaged in the service of all the living entities. How is that service engaged? Just by being. One does not need to do any specific activity. If someone is in an enlightened state of existence, they don't need to do lots and lots of things. Just when they are being at a particular place, they are spreading that enlightened consciousness to everyone. This one was where Krishna is talking about the extremities. Now in the 17th verse, we'll go to the 17th verse here. Yuktahara viharasya
Yuktahara viharasya
Yukta cheshtasya karmasu
Yukta cheshtasya karmasu
Yukta swapnavabodhasya
Yukta swapnavabodhasya
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha.
Yogo bhavati dukkhaha.
So here the word number is yukta,
Yukta,
regulated, ahara,
ahara,
eating, viharasya, recreation, yukta, regulated, cheshtasya, of one who works for maintenance, karmasu, in discharging duties, yukta, regulated, swapna avabodhasya, sleep and wakefulness, yoga, practice of yoga, bhavati, becomes, dukkhaha, diminishing pains. So here the translation is, he who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation and work, can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. Right, so here it's quite an interesting statement here. In the previous verse, Krishna was mentioning about the extremities, extremities in eating, extremities in sleeping, one side or the other side. Here he is talking about moderation. So yukta ahara viharasya. So in moderation one is eating. In moderation there is recreation as well. So it's not that one is not engaging in recreational activities. One is engaging in that, but in a moderated way. Yukta ahara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu. So then the other thing is cheshtasya karmasu. One has to, for the maintenance of the body, one has to engage in some kind of activity, especially in the householder form of life. When one has family, in a renounced order of life, the only focus is remembering the Lord. So then the maintenance of the body is important, but it's not as really like in a family life. One not only has to maintain oneself, but one has to maintain the family as well. But when one is in a renounced order, one is only maintaining oneself, and then there is this concept of bhiksha as well in the renounced order of life. One goes into a state of one goes to like bhiksham dehi. One goes and gets alms. It's basically total dependence on the Lord. That is a renounced order of life, where one is not. The whole concept is one is totally focused at every moment in remembering the Lord. That is the only activity one is doing in the renounced order. And when one is going for the alms, the actual reason for going for the alms is, of course, maintenance of oneself, but also informing the person who is giving the alms about the real goal of human form of life. So that is so here this is important thing. Yukta hara viharasya yukta cheshtasya karmasu. So whatever cheshta means whatever activities we are doing for karma, for our daily maintenance. Yukta swapna avabodhasya. And in moderation, one is sleeping and one is in a wakeful state. Yogo bhavati dukkha. Krishna says. So then, when one is, so that is a right platform for engaging in dhyana yoga. Not only dhyana yoga, any kind of yoga, any kind of connection. Because if the body and the mind is in an agitated state of existence, one cannot practice yoga. The body and mind has to be in a state of that, okay, everything is fine. The body is in a good situation, body is not demanding anything, the mind is not demanding anything. By anything, this is the thing, that anything is subjective here, right? If someone is bhoga aishwarya prasaktana, as we mentioned, if someone is attached to material indulgement, sense gratification, they think that sense gratification is the only way to attain happiness. If someone is in that state of existence, their definition of yukta will be different. Moderated will be different. Their definition of moderation will be high. It won't be real moderation. So we have to understand from the perspective of actually what is the end goal. Is the end goal just to enjoy the senses, just to gratify the senses, just to aishwarya, just to show off, in arrogant, in a state of arrogance, just showing off. If that is the attitude, then unfortunately, taya apaharata chetasam. Krishna says that their actual mind has been apaharata, kidnapped, taken away by the material energy of the Lord. Then they will not have vyavasayatmika buddhi, samadhana vidiyate. Vyavasayatmika buddhi is, we have talked about this before, that is one pointed concentration on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. It's one pointed. Bahu shakhai anantascha buddhyo avyavasayina. Krishna says that one who is not vyavasayatmika buddhi, fixed in remembering the Lord, their mind is bahu shakha, branches, lots and lots of branches. That means, unfortunately, they do not have a proper purpose in life. So there is an example recently about one person whose company was acquired for some $1,000 million or something. And this person said that I do not understand what I should be doing with my life. Because I have everything now. Now I don't know what I should be doing. So, unfortunately, but then this person is quite a resourceful kind of person. He's experimenting lots and lots of things. But the thing is, the real experimentation should be inward, just to understand who we are. That is if we kastvam poham kutayata, kame janani kame tata. Srila Shankaracharya mentions in Bhagavad-Gita. The real goal of human form of life is to understand kastvam, koham, who am I, where have I come from, kuta ayata, who, kame janani kame tata, who is my actual mother, who is my actual father. We know from the bodily perspective, we know who is our mother and who is our father. But from our eternal perspective, who is our mother, who is our father. So this is what has to be understood in the human form of life. And the platform for understanding that is when one is in moderated state of existence. And that moderated state of existence is the foundation for remembrance of the Lord, constant remembrance of the Lord. Sometimes it is not, sometimes there might be situations where one is in an extreme state of existence as well, due to some circumstances, right? Like, say if someone suddenly is in a very difficult state of existence and then they are in extreme conditions. But if someone is totally focused on the Lord, even in extreme conditions, they are able to remember the Lord. This is that is the state of existence of the pure devotees of the Lord, or who are engaged in their loving devotional service. So they are there. Ahaituki apratihata. it is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no cost. It's without any cost. And generally, the devotional service has got a cost. If we are in a conditioned state of existence, the cost is if I am distressed, then I'll go to the Lord and say, please remove my distress. Or if I want wealth, I'll go to the Lord and say, please give me wealth. Artha and Artharthi. But then there is Jnani and Jignasu, the other two categories. And the goal of human form of life is to somehow or other get to those two categories, where we are actually inquisitive. Inquisitive to understand our original nature. And then once that inquisitiveness becomes very strong, once one goes to the state of Jnana. Krishna actually says, Tesam Jnani Ekayuktam Vishishyate Priyo hi Jnani Athyartha Aham Sacha Mama Priya. Krishna says that among the four categories of people, one who is in distress, one who wants wealth, one who is inquisitive, and one who is in knowledge. Four kinds of people. Krishna says the person in knowledge is very dear to me. Tesham Jnani Nityavtam Eka Bhaktir Vishishyate. Why he is dear to me? Because he is engaged in one-pointed devotion to me. So the goal of knowledge is to engage in devotional service. Bahunam Janmanam Ante Jnanvan Mam Prapadyate. Krishna says after many births, a person in knowledge surrenders unto me. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlava. Then one understands that everything is Krishna's energy, and such a great soul is very rare. Krishna says, Samahatma Sudurlava. So this is the foundation of becoming Mahatma. This particular verse. Then we go to verse 18, which is Yada Viniyatam Chittam
Yada Viniyatam Chittam
Atmani Eva Vatishtate
Atmani Eva Vasishtate
Nispriha Sarvakamebhyo
Nisprisva Sarvakamebhyo
Yukta Iti Uchyate Tada.
Yukta Iti Uchyate Tada.
So here the word by word Yada,
Yada
when,
When
Viniyatam, particularly disciplined, Chittam, the mind and its activities, Atmani, in the transcendence, Eva, certainly, Avatishtate, become situated, Nispriha, devoid of desire, Sarva, for all kinds of Kamebhya, material sense gratification, Yuktaha, well situated in yoga, Iti, thus, Uchyate, is said to be Tada, at that time. Translation is when the yogi, by practice of yoga, disciplines his mental activities, and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, he is said to be well established in yoga. Right, so this one is, so if you look at the 16, 17 and this is 18, in 16 he was talking about the extremities, in 17 he talked about the moderation, and now in 18, when that moderation is in a steady state, then Krishna is saying, here is Yada Viniyatam Chittam Atmani Eva Va Atishtate. So basically, what is happening is the mind, the state of mind is basically based on, so mind's original state of existence is within, when it is not agitated. But when the senses are looking at the sense objects, and because we have the samskaras, there is a chitta. So samskara means, since time immemorial, our subtle body has been taking on lots and lots of impressions. We have taken birth after birth after birth. There are a lot of impressions that are within our subtle body. So basing on those impressions that we have, the senses are getting attracted to the things that we have been always attracted to. So basically what happens is, either the mind is thinking about some kind of sense gratification, and then the senses are getting engaged in that sense gratification, or the other way around, or the senses are seeing some sense gratificatory things, and the mind is getting involved in that. So, that example that we were talking about, a chariot. So, the body is like a chariot, the person within the body is the passenger, the intelligence is the charioteer, the 5 horses are the 5 senses that we have, and then the reins that are connected to the horses, that is the mind. So the intelligence, the charioteer, has to take the reins in a proper way so that the horses are going to the destination where it should go. But what happens is, basically, the horses are going in their own direction. So the charioteer is not able to control, or the reins are going in a different way. So actually, what has to happen is the passenger has to know where he has to go, and the passenger will say to the charioteer, "Oh, charioteer, please take me to this place." But what happens is the passenger doesn't know where he has to go, right? Like in the human form of life, what is happening is somehow we don't understand that the goal of human form of life is to know our eternal nature and, just become absorbed in remembering the Lord. Somehow we don't know that is the goal. Nate vidu swartha gatim he Vishnu. Srila Prahlad Maharaj mentions in Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that unfortunately people do not know that their real self-interest lies in the Gati. Gati's destination is Vishnu. That the real self-interest and the self-interest should be directed to the destination, which is Vishnu. Why Durashaya Bahirarthamanina? Why people do not know that? Durasha. Durasha means hoping against hope. What does hoping against hope means? That even though, we know that all these material things that we get does not give me unlimited, total satisfaction, because it lasts very limited way. Right? Any material sense gratification does not last forever. Even though one knows that, one still goes after it. So that is Durashaya. Bahirartha. Bahirartha means external. Taking external as the only way of attaining happiness. Andha yathanda upaniya manas tepisha santya udami badhya. So what Srila Prahlad Maharaj says is that unfortunately the situation is like a blind man leading another blind man. Unfortunately that is the situation. And everyone is actually controlled by the material energy of the Lord. So Devi Hesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya Mameva Ye Prapadyante Maya Metam Tarantite. And Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita that this material energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. It is made up of the 3 modes of material nature: goodness, passion and ignorance. So Mameva Ye Prapadyante. Krishna says that someone who surrenders unto me, Mayam Etam Tarantite. I help them to cross over this material quagmire, if you want to say it that way. So the example that is given is like, say if someone is in a prison, how can one come out of the prison soon enough? not serve the whole prison sentence, but come out quickly. If one satisfies the in charge of the prison, right? Whoever is the superintendent in charge of the prison, if that person gets satisfied, one comes out of the prison soon enough. How does one do it? One does nice activities, when shows that one is really good, and then the person in charge of the prison gets impressed, and then they exactly this is similar, right? So this material world, instead of saying prison, we can say it is like a learning place. We can take it that example. So we have come to a kind of university of this material world, and every birth is like a learning. It's like what are we learning in this particular birth? Are we getting closer to remembering the Lord as much as possible? Are we having that? Are we going there? If we are not, then this punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jakare shayam. Srila Shankaracharya says in Bhagavad-Gita, he says, constantly taking birth, constantly dying, constantly in the womb of one mother and another mother. So sometimes people think that, if one is in a total conditioned state of existence, one thinks that this is not a problem, this is like normal. What is problem in this? This is like normal existence. But when one is really more understanding the spiritual aspects, then one understands, that this is Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi, Dukkha Doshanu Darshanam. So there is Indriyartheshu Vairagya. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita, what are the qualities of a person who is trying to attain him? So he says the first is, one is not attached to the sense gratification. It does not mean that one does not, like something nice is coming. It's not that, one is totally ignoring it, and that is like, going to the other extreme. It is coming, one is accepting it and saying that this is Lord's mercy. And then if something is not coming, what one needs, again it is Lord's mercy. So this is this is what Krishna mentions. Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankaram evacha. The second is not having this sense of arrogance, saying that I am doing everything. Actually, prakriti kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasha. Ahankara vimodhatma karta hamiti manyate. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita that actually all the work is being done by the modes of material nature. So we are in the mode of goodness, we are engaging in Krishna Katha. We are in mode of passion, we will engage in sense gratification and attaining lots and lots of material things. If we are in mode of ignorance, we will be just lazy. We won't be doing anything. So these modes of material nature are basically acting on us, and then we are acting. But actually, ahankara vimodhatma karta hamiti manyate. If I think that I am this body, I am this mind, and then I think that I am the doer. But actually, we are not doing anything. The real us, the eternal us, does not do any material activity. It is always linked to Krishna. The external us is dead, actually. Because what is the difference between a living body and a dead body? It is something has gone in the living body because of which it has become dead. The body is still there. What is it that is missing? So basically what is happening is, it is that ahankara, this false ego, is connecting an eternal existence of us to a temporary situation. And then we think that this temporary situation is me. But actually that is not me. So this is what Indriyartheshu vairagyam anahankaram evacha janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. The third is that one understands that there's death, old age and disease is a problem, and that is happening because I'm getting birth in a material body. Material body is the cause of that. But actually one can have the spiritual existence, which is an eternal pastime in Goloka Vrindavan. So there one can have an eternal spiritual body. So in the spiritual body there is no birth, there is no death, there is no disease, there is no old age. It is in the material body that it exists. So here in this particular verse, Krishna is saying that Nisprihas sarva kamebhyo yukta iti uchyate tada. So one is free from all material sense gratificatory activities. And yukta iti uchyate tada. So then when one is well situated in yoga. So this is the verse 18, and then the verse 19. This will be the last verse we are discussing today. Yatha dipo nivatastho
Yatha dipo nivatastho
Nengate sopama smrita
Nengate sopama smrita
Yogino yata chittasya
Yogino yata chittasya
Yunjato yogamatmanaha.
Yunjato yogamatmanaha.
The word by word is yatha,
Yatha
as
as
deepaha,
Deepaha
a
a lamp
nivatastha,
Nivatastha
in a place without wind.
in a place without wind.
Na,
Na
does not, ingate,
ingate
waver,
waver
sa,
sa
this,
this
upama,
upama
comparison, smrita,
smrita
is considered,
is considered
yoginaha,
yogina
of the yogi,
of the yogi
yata chittasya,
yata chittasya
whose mind is controlled,
whose mind is controlled
yunjataha,
yunjataha
constantly engaged, yogam,
yogam
in meditation,
atmanaha
on transcendence.
on transcendence.
Translation here is, as a lamp
As a lamp
in a windless place,
in a windless place,
does not waver.
does not waver.
So the transcendentalist,
So the transcendentalist,
whose mind is controlled,
whose mind is controlled,
remains always steady
remains always steady
in his meditation
in his meditation
on the transcendent self.
on the transcendent self.
Right, so here the Krishna is giving the example of yatha deepo nivatastho. So deepa is a lamp, nivata is without a wind. Na ingate so upama smrita. It does not waver. This is a comparison. Yogino yata chittasya yunjata yoga matmana. So similarly, when the yogi's mind is yata chitta, चेतसा सर्वकर्माणि मयि सन्यस्य मत्परा बुद्धि योगम उपाश्रित्य मच्चित्त सततं भव. कृष्ण मच्चित्त सर्वदुर्गाणि मत्प्रसादात् तरिष्यसि अथ चेत्वम् अहंकारान् शोष्यसि विनश्यसि. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita, when the mind is fixed on Krishna, all the difficulties can be crossed over. Sarva durgani mat prasada tarishyasi. Krishna says, through my costless mercy, you can cross over all difficulties. Atha chetva ahankaran shoshyasi vinashyasi. But if a person is acting with false ego, unfortunately one will be in a difficult state of existence. So this is here the example that is, it's a beautiful example that Krishna has given. The lamp which is not in a windy situation. So it is very, it stays. Like if you look at this lamp, right? If this lamp is, there's no wind here, and therefore it is very steady. It's just straight. But if there is a wind, it will just keep wavering here and there. And sometimes if the wind is very strong, it will basically go down as well, right? It will totally dissipate. So what is happening in this material world is a person whose mind is not fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. What is happening is the mind is just going from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. Shrota vyadini rajan nrinam santi sahasrasa apashyatam atmatattvam graheshu brahmedina. Shukadeva Goswami says to Parikshit Maharaj that if one does not see one's eternal existence as an eternal part and parcel of Krishna, one is inclined to hear thousands and thousands of topics that has no relationship with Krishna, no relationship with one's eternal existence. But if one is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord, the mind, even though externally there might be lots of trials and tribulations, one is not affected internally. Because internally one knows that one is eternal part and parcel of Krishna. That's why that wonderful verse by Krishna, he says, Mama eva amsha jivaloke jivabhuta sanatana. Krishna says that all the living entities in this whole universe are my eternal part and parcels. If they are eternal part and parcels, why do they struggle in this material world? Manaha shashtani indriyani. When we identify ourselves with the mind and the five senses, and the mind is called the sixth sense, then what happens is prakriti sthani karshati. Then in this material world, we are in a state of struggle. Otherwise, if one is totally fixed in the lotus feet of the Lord, this externally people might perceive that this person is struggling. Like for example, sometimes people ask the question, when a person is enlightened and they have some physical problems, externally, when a person externally seeing the person, they are seeing him as having physical problems. But internally, that person is totally fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Knowing that I am eternal part and parcel of the Lord. This is just, probably, some activities that I have done in previous lives for which the prarabdha karma is taking place. The prarabdha karma is that which is, prarabdha means basing on the activities that I have already done. I have to get the results. So that might be happening. So internally, externally, it might feel as if, there is lots of difficulties happening to the person. But the person actually internally is really totally peaceful and totally detached from everything that is happening externally. And that is the real yogi. The yogi yunjita sadatam atmana prahasi stita nisprihas sarva kamebhyo nirashar aparigraha. The one that Krishna mentioned before. Because one is situated within. Ramante yogina anante. Satyanande Chidatmani. It is mentioned that a real yogi is enjoying the happiness and bliss within, and that happiness has got no external reason. And generally what happens is, in the material existence, for me to be happy, I have to have some external engagement. Otherwise I won't be happy. Why is that happening? Because the mind thinks that way. But if the mind goes inside to its source and just rests there, one then does not need anything else. That is the source of the mind. The example that they give is like, someone wants something very badly. So what happens? That is kamshati, it is called. Kamshati is desiring. So when one is desiring, what is happening is the mind is going towards that object. So mind is going far away from the person. It is actually becoming that object. Because the mind is thinking about that object, it is becoming that object. So mind is going far away. Somehow or other one gets that. What would happen? Mind comes back to its source. So actual happiness has got no link to that thing that was one was desiring. It was already there. But the problem is, because I identify myself with the body and the mind and the five senses, I think that that is the cause of my happiness. But actually, our real happiness has got no cause. It is causeless. Our real bliss, our real existence, it is just based on that Satchidananda. It is called Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness or knowledge, and Ananda is the bliss. So our original existence is Satchidananda, but when I think that I am this body, I am associating myself with Asat. Asat, why Asat? Because this is constantly changing. At every moment my body is changing. What is changing is Asat. Na sato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sata. Krishna mentions in Bhagavad-Gita that what is actually existing will exist in the same way eternally. It will never change. But the body is such that it is changing at every moment. So this is what Dehi nosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yavanam jara. Krishna mentions, because there is proprietor of the body within the body, there is this childhood, youth and old age. Tatha dehantaram prapti. Similarly, one has to give up this body. So this is, so somehow or other, if we can understand our original Satchidananda nature, then we will not link ourselves with this Asat, Achit and Nirananda. So our body and our subtle body is mind, intelligence and false ego, and gross body is made up of earth, water, fire, air and space, the 8 ingredients. Then we will not identify ourselves with this external covering that we have, and then it does not matter, where one is situated, it does not matter. The mind is always focused on the lotus feet of the Lord. So that is the kind of conclusion that we can get. What we see here is, we started with the extremities that Krishna mentioned, then he talked about the moderation, then he is talking about how he's giving that example now. In this particular verse, he gave the example, what is the situation of the mind of a yogi? It is like this lamp, for example, right, which is not wavering at all. And we can go a step further here. The situation of the yogi is, because they are, internally situated, all the external wind and everything will not get affected. For example, if this was there outside, all the wind and everything will affect it. Right? Because it is there inside the house, nothing is affecting it. Exactly the same way, if the mind is within, in its source, in its home, then it does not waver. But when the mind goes outside, it is constantly wavering here and there. So with that, thank you very much for listening. If you want to have some comments or questions, we can discuss.
Like you were talking about the fear. If we have faith, there will not be any fear. So we see 2 types of personalities. One we say is this is a positive person and this is a negative person. So irrespective of their spiritual beliefs, is it that the positive person has faith and negative one doesn't have faith?
Yeah, that is an interesting one. So there are two perspectives to this with which we can look at it. One is a material perspective and another is a spiritual perspective. So if we look at it from a material perspective, a person could be in a positive frame of mind just from a material perspective. Person might not have any shraddha as such, any faith. So yeah, that's fine. That's fine for their existence in this particular body. And if they get another birth, maybe because their samskara is like that, they will continue it. But the Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi is still existing, unfortunately, right? So the real goal in the human form of life is somehow or other, one has to come out of this cycle of birth, death, old age and disease. So it's fine, they are positive, they are spreading positivity, but unless this is what is called dharma swanushtita pumsam vishwakshena katasvaya notpadiyat ratim yadi shrama evahi kevalam. It is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam that one might be doing one's activities in a very nice way, nicely looking after the family, nicely doing everything. Vishwakshena katasvaya notpadiyat ratim yadi. But unfortunately, one is not developing attachment to hear about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishwakshena katha. Then what is Srimad Bhagavatam is saying is it's Shrama evahi kevalam. Unfortunately, it is just like a hard labor. Why it is a hard labor? Because everything is positive, but one is not coming out of this samsara. So that is the material aspect. But then we can add the spiritual aspect now, and we can see a person who is positive and who also has got that spiritual faith. They're actually in a better position, because not only are they positive and spreading the positivity, but they are also coming out of this cycle of birth and death. So both are good, but one is ultimately better for everyone, really, for not only that person, but for everyone else, irrespective of what it is. Yeah, hope that is fine. Yeah, in terms of understanding. Yeah. Of course, the negative is unfortunate, isn't it? Like negative is, it's like even materially, if one is spreading negative vibrations, unfortunately, they are in a very difficult situation. So somehow they have to come out of it. Right? So then it might be actually going to someone who can do counseling and things like that. Right? One has to first identify oneself that one is in a difficult situation, and then one has to go and take counseling, and so every aspect has to be dealt with in its own way, right? So if one is having some physical problems, one has to go to a doctor and look after the physical body. Mental problems, one has to go to a mental counselor, and but of course the wonderful nature of the spiritual knowledge is that one can deal with all different types of difficulties if one has that spiritual knowledge. Because in that situation, externalities, even though it might at that moment feel quite bad, but internally one will be really situated very strongly, knowing that all this is just an external thing. It is not going to be permanent. Right? So that is very clear, I think, for a person who is spiritual.
Yeah, but the person who is negative might be happy within himself.
Yeah.
But because of him or her, the other persons might not be happy.
Yeah, that's true.
Just an example.
Yeah, like for example, they talk about this narcissist personality.
Yeah.
Have you heard about that? Narcissist?
Hitler?
Huh?
Or
Yeah, Hitler. No, just
Hitler probably is an extreme example. Narcissists generally are the people who consider themselves as the best kind of thing,
Yeah.
And their way of thinking is my way or highway kind of thing. That is what. So either you follow my way or you just get out. That is the narcissist mentality. So that is that situation, unfortunately. But they are suffering. They don't know that they are suffering, but they are suffering.
like sometimes people say, no, you can't do this, it is not possible, or this cannot be done. But the other person would say, let's just try. So there is a positive and a negative.
Exactly. Yeah.
So negativity means he is fearful. That's
Yes.
why he says it's not possible.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was my question. Like, so it means that he doesn't have spiritual beliefs, or it's just that he is fearful. Because
Yeah, it can be again. It can be taken in two different perspectives, right? The material perspective, it can be taken that even materially the person is not in a proper state. In the spiritual perspective, one is clear, in terms of knowing that one is eternal, but that it's very difficult, because if you look, Krishna actually himself says, Manushyanam sahasreshu kashi derati siddhe, yatatam api siddhanam kashirma meti tatvata. Krishna says in Bhagavad-Gita that, there are billions of people, very few try to attain perfection. And even among the few who try to attain perfection, very few know me as I am. So it's really rare, Sudurlabha it is called. The devotional service is not common. It's somehow, there is some kind of blessing that we all have, because of which we have this small inclination to, know our original nature. Otherwise, if you look at it in the world, unfortunately, it's so. That's why these saints are so compassionate, to everyone, because they know that, unfortunately, they are suffering. Even though probably some people are not realizing, for example, someone might have everything in their life, very well settled, everything. So then people will say, what is the problem? I don't have any problem. But actually, yeah. This is what, we are talking about Buddha, right? So Buddha understood that, the birth, death, old age and disease, those are the actual problems in the material world. But the wonderful spiritual knowledge is that all this is not us. We are never this. This is a spiritual knowledge, right? That once one is in that situation, one knows that all this is like a dream. We were never separate from the Lord. We were always with the Lord. So it is. Like
we just went to India, so we were comparing that here the food items are much pure and unadulterated. But there the food services are better. We have blankets.
Yes, that's true.
So it's not, everything is not there everywhere.
Exactly.
If we get blanket here, that is an actual blessing, I would say. Because the food quality is also good and the service is also good. But there the quality is not good, but still we can have it in
lots of services.
10 minutes.
Yes.
Its delivery is possible.
This is the kind of nature of the material world. Nothing is totally perfect.
Yeah.
There are pros and cons to every aspect. And at the end of the day, it is, if you can know that the Lord is actually in control, then it is fine. Then it does not matter where one is located. Because
if we see deeply, then there are challenges for them to provide the things in 10 minutes. But here, due to safety procedures and everything for their employees, they will not allow them to do such things.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So they are also on this side, they are right that they are taking care of not only the customers but their employees as well. Yeah. But in India, only customer is taken care of. Yeah. Employees are just like that.
Yeah. It's a totally different paradigm, isn't it? What is it?
Like the shops are closed at 6 because everyone needs to have their own family life.
Yes, yeah.
And there even 24/7 we have shops open.
Yeah.
Because they want to earn money.
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
now here they don't care about money at all, I have seen.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like two different worlds within a world, isn't it?
They don't even care about the competition here, I've seen. Like my online parcel was not delivered. I called the customer support, they said, then it might have been lost. They are not able to track it. And then they said, okay, we'll give you compensation, this much discount. I said, I'm already getting staff discount. What kind of composition is this? This is what we can do. That's all. No more efforts, nothing, but they are just following the set protocol.
Yeah.
They can't go beyond it.
Yeah.
But sometimes physically when customers come, then if it's in our limitation, then we do provide them discounts.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's pros and cons to everything, really. Nothing is perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srimad Bhagavad-Gita ki jai. So now we will sing the Narsimha Pranam mantra. Namaste Narasimhaya.
Namaste Narasimhaya.
Hiranyakashi Purvaksha Hiranyakashi Purvaksha Shiratankanakalaye Shiratankanakalaye Ito Nasimho Parato Nasimho Ito Nasimho Parato Nasimho Yato Yato Yami Sato Nasimho Yato Yato Yami Sato Nasimho Bahir Nasimho Hridaye Nasimho Bahir Nasimho Hridaye Nasimho Narasimhamadin Sharanam Prapade Narasimhamadin Sharanam Prapade Tavataratamaravade Natha Adbhuta Chindara Dalita Hiranyakashito Tanu Vrinda Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagdish Hare Jai Jagdish Hare Jai Jagdish Hare Tava Kamala Adbhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakashito Tanu Vrinda Keshavadhrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagdish Hare Jai Jagdish Hare Jai Jagdish Hare Jaya Narsimha Dev 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 Jaya Narahari 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 Jaya Prahlad Maharaj Jaya Bhakta Prahlad 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 Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol वैष्णोदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की जय ओम विष्णुपदाय कृष्ण 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 नमस्ते सरस्वती देवी भगवान प्रचारणे विशेष शुभ पश्चात देशिकाय सर्वं श्री कृष्णार्पणमस्तु कृष्णमस्तु हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna.